This session really is a chance to kind of demystify the public art process for everyone. I know we consistently hear feedback from artists across the region that navigating these calls for artists, the RFP process, city processes especially, can be sometimes unclear, or at the very least a little inaccessible. And this program is a direct response to that. As someone who serves on the Municipal Art Commission at Kansas City, I can tell you that every call, every opportunity, you'd love nothing more than to give to a local artist. And this is an opportunity to put more information in your hands, give you as many resources as possible. That really is ArtsKC's role, is to be a resource gatherer and a conduit to our sector, those in our sector. And that really is our goal. It strengthens both not only our the creative sector of our region, but the creative economy of our region, to have our artists in practice getting these opportunities and nailing us down. So what to expect today, you'll hear from a range of different perspectives that we've gathered for you across the arts ecosystem, which I think is really important, from city administration, public art consultants, arts organizations, working artists in the field, doing exactly what we're here to talk about tonight. Just so you know, for those of you online and those of you here, I will keep a tally of questions online. If you can post those in the chat, please. And for each of you, I will walk around as we get started with some paper. And if you need pens and pencils, there's some up there. If you'll write down your comments and just wave them up in the air, I'll collect them. And then when we have Q&A at the end, I'll gather that critical mass and we'll talk about those at the end. And then if you have more that come up, you can certainly interact in that way. But that way, I think, might be the most efficient. Also, this event is being recorded online, so we will pass that recording and the presentation materials out as we are done today. Just so you know, in case those of you who don't know, we're using the OWL to help us facilitate our kind of hybrid experience. If you're not familiar, it'll pick up as voices talk, so we're not using any microphones to amplify us today because it kind of confuses that. But once we move to Q&A, I'll put that out there and it'll capture you guys as you ask questions and capture their responses as they talk. So just know the OWL is watching as we do this. So before we begin, I want to highlight a few key resources of ArtsKC for you to be aware of, so that you can know what ArtsKC is here for. If this is your first time interacting with us, we welcome you, or you've received a grant from us before, you've participated in a program. We're excited that you're here, and we're excited that you're getting to know us a little bit more. So I'm Brandon Harrelson. I am our Director of Public Policy and Government Relations here at ArtsKC, the Regional Arts Council. So I really kind of try to live as that bridge between the electeds and those who are making and creating policy in the area, and as a singer and actor myself, the artists and the creative workforce that's here in our 5-county region, and help us to be as effective and as robust as we possibly can be. So a couple of resources from ArtsKC, our grants, probably the most impactful for you as artists. And 2 key categories, though there are more, and I encourage you to grab a grants sheet as you leave today. For individual artists, inspiration grants, those are specific to individual artists, the projects you're working on, the pieces you're working on. And those, sometimes when we have the funds, we run 2 different cycles of those. Though this last year we just had enough funds to do 1 cycle. They just closed for 2026, but I encourage you to look back. We may post another cycle as we go throughout the year, depending on funds. But you can definitely look for those applications to open in the beginning of every calendar year. And then Terry Rogers Film Grants. Anyone in here that does screenwriting or filmmaking as part of your practice? This grant opportunity is specifically for you. This is a grant that we created in name for Terry Rogers, who is a staple here of the film industry here in Kansas City. It's 2 film grants for $10,000 each, 1 screenwriting grant as well. Applications actually for that will open soon. So if anyone online or here has any friends, or you yourself are a filmmaker, I encourage you to share that opportunity. And for all of this, you can check our socials as well as our website. We are at ArtsKC on all of the major social platforms. And then now showing, for those of you who are visual artists, this is a program that we've developed that puts rotating arts exhibitions in the participating business facilities. It can rotate as much as up to a quarter, so your work can be shown in 4 different places throughout the year, just depending on the capacity that we have and the businesses have as well. It's 100% of the sales go to artists. We take no commission off of your work. The businesses can buy the work outright, or people that see it. This is in businesses all the way from Birds and McDonald to Parisi Coffee at Union Station, Blue Cross Blue Shield, everywhere from major businesses to dental offices and smaller businesses throughout the metropolitan area. So I'd encourage you, if you are interested in learning more, go to artskc.org and just find the Now Showing tab under resources, and you can learn more about exactly what goes into being eligible for the Now Showing program. And then here, the gallery, it's very blank today because we're having a new artist for May move in tomorrow. But this opportunity opens in the latter part of the year, so late 2026 or early 2027. And then we pick, I believe, 10 months through the year. You get the space, whether you do, we encourage you to activate the space as much as possible. It's not just meant to be pieces on the wall, although we love that. It's meant to be a living, breathing exhibition space, community events. This month we have Queer and Casey coming in. There's gonna be drag shows and music nights, all kinds of events in here, and that's really the intent of the community gallery program. So we're really excited that this is going to be live all the way through October this year. And then check back, there's a chance that we will do another winter market right before the holidays. So if you are a maker, if that's part of your practice, it's $0 booth rentals, or really, really low, like $20 booth rentals. It's just about getting as many artists and makers crammed into the space as possible to be seen as many buyers as possible. And then lastly, and probably our most apt with what's happening here in the city, artskcgo.com. Anyone here have a profile on artskcgo.com already? Okay, so you've probably seen that there's been a major facelift that's happened to artskcgo.com lately, and that has been a lot of my and our marketing staff's dedicated hard work, making that more detailed than ever. And we are so excited that the functionalities are just going to get more and more compiled as we go, with new local guides added as we get closer to the World Cup and beyond. And then in tandem with that, we're going to have our brand new marketing campaign called Culture Lives Here that's going to start on May 7th, so next week. And I cannot wait for you to see the images of this marketing campaign. They're striking, they're beautiful, they're profound. It's going to be incredibly exciting. Anyone online or here that would like to be a part of our World Cup task force, so preparing for the World Cup, that meets tomorrow, same place. There won't be a virtual option for that, unfortunately, but that'll be here in the gallery 3:30 to 5 tomorrow. And you're going to get first look at the marketing campaign and the plan for where that's going to go here in the metropolitan area. It's going to be really exciting. We can't wait. We just got the final images a couple of hours ago, and it's going to be really exciting. So, but before that, if you have not created a profile on artskcgo.com, I encourage you to do that. I want to show you just really quickly. And hang on, for those of you online, forgive me, I gotta stop sharing real quick, and then I gotta share my entire screen again. Okay, so those of you online, can you see this page on ArtsKC Go right now? Okay, cool.
Yes,
Just want to make sure you I changed it. Okay, so this is an example of new ArtsKC Go. You can see very exciting new look and feel. But this is an example of a really detailed and robust artist profile on ArtsKC Go. Anyone know Music by Skippy? Anyone know him? So this is his profile on artskcgo.com, and you can see it's got place for lots of different media, photos, the different disciplines, as well as all the different ways to connect. So whether that's a website, all of your socials that you want to include, as well as CV or any other documents that you want to include. And you can tag yourself in all the different ways that we are able to. And for those of you that are visual artists, anyone who wants a commission of whether that is, mural or portraits, etc. But for musicians and other actors, if someone's looking for a jazz trio for their wedding or for a corporate event or whatever, if all the ways that you want them to find you, they can search and try to find you in the database. That is the goal. Here's another one. This is GK Callahan. Anyone who knows that artist out at Inglewood, this is his page, and this is Terry Runyon here. You can see their page as well. So just to give you an idea of how detailed you can make it and what it looks like here. And then you are searchable in the database as well. So add your profile to artskcgo.com. I hope that is a resource for you as well. And you can scan this QR code to find artskcgo.com as well. You can also, more than just profiles, it's even the bigger part of it is event posting. If you have events, if you've got showcases that you're a part of, or if you are going to be a part of an event at another organization and they're not on artskcgo.com, they can post an event and tag you as an artist as part of that event, and you can get promotion that way as well. So join ArtsKC If you have any questions for me, I'll also, you've gotten my email obviously, but there's my email there if you should need it. So next up, we'll jump right in with James Martin. Go ahead. All right, do I advance? Yeah, I'll give you the clicker. And it's, just forward, backwards, all that good stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. All right. So if I were to ask, okay, so we've got the World Cup coming, there's going to be all kinds of TV stations and all that. They're going to be showing parts of the city, like symbols of the city. So if I ask you, what are the symbols of the city when we're talking about visual art, what comes to mind? The shuttlecocks, yeah. Kauffman Center, yeah. Western Auto. The Hearts. Sky stations. Sky stations. So the sky stations got there through the program that I managed back in 1994, long before I was involved with it. But there was a 1% for Art project. And so there was a massive construction project at the convention center. This is when they built it over the highway, and the art that is throughout the convention center and here on the pylons came about through the 1% for Art program. So I'm going to show you some examples of things we've done over the years. I'm going to give you some background as to how the program works, and hopefully you'll come away better understanding what we do at the end of this. So I work with the Municipal Art Commission. That's a group of 15 people appointed by the mayor. The Municipal Art Commission was established in 1925 with the city charter, and they have approval authority for works of art on city property or in the right of way. So anytime one of the hearts, for example, is placed on a sidewalk is city property, they have to come to the Municipal Art Commission to get approval for that. So in 1970 and 1981, there were non-binding resolutions passed, which basically said, wouldn't it be a great idea to have a 1% for Art program? And it didn't really go beyond the idea stage at that point. Until 1986, there was actually, the ordinance was passed, so it became law that 1% of the engineer's estimated costs of a city construction project has to be set aside for visual art. And then in 2017, we expanded the program there's a pool of money that it's bonds, and it's called the GOKC initiative. And whenever there's a project that uses that pot of money, we can do a 1% for Art program with that also. So how does it all work? So the PAA, that's me, Public Art Administrator, identifies eligible projects and recommends selection panelists. And by the way, we're always looking for selection panelists. If any of you are interested, you can come up and see me afterwards. We do typically give an honorarium for serving on a selection panel. All selection panelists are approved by the Municipal Art Commission. Artists submit their portfolio and qualifications through callforentry.org. So if you do not have a profile on callforentry.org, that's something I would highly encourage you to do. All of our projects come through callforentry.org, but there are hundreds of projects listed at any given time from all over the country and in fact all over the world. So it can be it can be kind of overwhelming actually, but you can choose which things to pay attention to on that. So they submit their portfolio and their qualifications. We always start off with, almost always start off with an RFQ, a request for qualifications. Thanks. So what that means is the very first level of judging is from your portfolio and your resume and your letter of interest. And so when I hear people say that there's a lot of requirements to apply, I have to take issue with that because there's only you need 4 things to apply. You need a computer with internet access. You need a resume. You need your portfolio on callforentry.org, and you need a letter of interest. That's all it takes to apply. You don't have to do anything else with the city. You don't have to register as a vendor. You don't have to get a business license, any of that, just to apply. Now, it does become a lot more complicated later if we actually develop a contract with you. And Phil can speak to that. Yeah, he's gone through some contracts with us. It's no fun for anybody, quite honestly. So the selection panelists judge those qualifications on call for entry, and then they narrow down the field to semifinalists. The semifinalists are asked to produce proposals. So no proposals are actually required just to apply. And we do that so that we don't have a bunch of artists working for free. Ideally, it should be easy for you to apply. I mean, it does take some work to get your portfolio up on call for entry, but we're not going to make you propose something right off the bat. That's kind of an industry standard in public art. If a public art program asks you to propose something right off the bat, you should view it with some questions. Sometimes there are very good reasons to do that, but you know, you should have some questions about that. Let's see, where are we? So they develop their design proposals. The selection panelists reconvene. They choose a finalist and an alternate. The Municipal Art Commission approves the finalist. And any contract, whether it's for buying cars or computers or art, any contract that's over $400,000 must be approved by the City Council. I do not have a vote. Public Art Administrator does not vote. And that's also pretty common in the public art world. So that's how art is selected. I want to show you some examples of things we've done over the years. First thing I'm going to show you is not a 1% for art project. Some of you may have noticed a lot of murals going up around town over the last 2 years. Those were actually commissioned through the city manager's office. I was not involved. The 1% for art program was not involved. In most cases, the Municipal Art Commission was not involved because the murals appear on private property. They're not on city-owned property. So the city has a lot of murals now. I just want you to know that was done outside the 1% for art program. So if we didn't do the murals, what did we do? Well, back in 1992, this was the very first work of art installed by the 1% for art program. It's called Bull Wall, and it's in the West Bottoms by Robert Morris, who was a Kansas City Art Institute alum. He is from Kansas City, and his dad worked in the stockyards, and he was inspired by what he saw there as a kid going down to the stockyards. We have Joel Shapiro's 3 Figures or 15 Elements from 1996 in the median on the way to KCI. We've got the moons outside of the T-Mobile Center that came about through the city's contribution to the T-Mobile Center. It's a privately owned building, but the city contributed to its construction. Therefore, we got a 1% for art project for it. 2007 on that one. Those video screens are now 19 years old. So you can imagine how well they're working. We have a boxcar on top of a garage. This is on top of the garage for Cosentino's. The city built the garage, and so therefore there was a 1% for art project for it. This was imagined as a performance space, and the prairie grass that you see in front of it is also part of the artwork. We are just this year undergoing a restoration of the boxcar. It'll be repainted. Some of the perforated panels will be replaced, etc. And so we do try to do maintenance as often as we can. There's not a dedicated fund for maintenance. I have to ask for it every year. And for the fiscal year that starts May 1st, I didn't get any maintenance funds. So that tells you how much maintenance we do. We did just do a huge project, maintenance project on this work. This is from 2016 called We Are a Bowl, Empty Earthen Vessels Waiting to Be Filled. And it's by David Dahlquist and his art studio at RDG Architects. So he's a ceramic artist. He was a principal of an architecture firm, and they got into public art in a very big way. So anytime a public artist can work with an architect, that's usually a pretty winning combination. We did a massive restoration of this. The original construction of it had some problems and lots of water infiltrated, and we had rust stains. We had bowls that had popped off the wall, and it's now back to its former glory after it was probably about a 3-year project to restore it. This is by local artist Beth Nybeck that some of you might know. It's called Dream Swept. And this is in a roundabout on the Northland. The city was constructing this, widening a road to handle the increased traffic. And because they used this pot of money called GOKC, we were able to do a 1% for art project within the roundabout there. So that one's fairly recent, 2021. It was one of the first projects I worked on. I started at the city in 2019. Any of you that have been to the new terminal at KCI have seen this, no doubt. This is Leo Villarreal's fountain, and it's LEDs that the lights go on and off, and it really does resemble a fountain that's spouting. This was the largest commission at KCI. We had just over $5.5 million to put in art to the terminal, and we put in art by 28 artists with that. This was the highest budget, and it was just under 1.2 million for this particular spot in the terminal. This is a brand new one. Some of you might know Amy Jacobson. She has a studio over in Independence, another local artist. It's called Lean on Me, and we just installed this back in March, and it's at the Kansas City Zoo in the lion area. She was inspired by the baobab tree that grows all over Africa. This is one that is in the works. It's for the streetcar, and it's by another local artist named Barry Anderson, who teaches at UMKC. There will be 2 of these locations, one at the Plaza stop and one just south of MLK Boulevard. We're working out some of the problems with some of the locations. So I'm not quite sure exactly when it'll be installed, but it should be done by the end of the year. This is a brand new mural. It was completed just, I think, about 2 weeks ago. This is, unfortunately, it's a rather pixelated image. And it's very difficult to photograph. It's a huge wall. It was about 100 feet wide by 20 feet tall. It's called Golden Roots, and you see the letters there that spell out roots. It's at the southwest corner of Swope Parkway and Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. So let me go back a little bit. Okay. So Amy's project was $105,000, $115,000. Barry's project, $185,000. This is a young artist named Michael Artis. This project was $30,000. So you can see it's kind of depends on what the construction budget was for that particular project. That helps us determine what the budget is for the art. So I didn't get through everything, but we can cover some more things during question and answer, I'm sure. I do not, but I'm sure Tiffany does. Okay.
Thanks, Jane.
Yeah.
The wave or a river cloud going to the riverfront. Yep. This one's coming to Waldo.
75th and
Warnall, which is cool because it's been like waiting, been prepared for it.
There's a hole in the ground now for the foundation.
Awesome.
14 nodes along Brush Creek that will.
Oh yeah.
Kansas City civil rights history.
Yeah, that's gonna be really cool. Different little images, vignettes on little plaques.
There's
Right?
a detail in the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can be really cool. There it is.
There it
I
is.
saw there. Yeah. Barney Alice Plaza there, the new rendering there. Exciting.
It's actually an old rendering.
It is an old rendering. And no one ever published like the full rendering of the full scope of the whole thing, which is, I think, the coolest picture. So anyway, well, welcome Ann Holliday from Art in the Loop, also with Downtown Council. We can talk a little bit about the Art in the Loop Foundation. There you go.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody. Oh, all right. So I'm just going to start off by saying that I am different. Art in the Loop is different from working from the city's 1% program in many ways, and other ways we're similar. Our stipends that we offer, first of all, we do temporary art, and by art I mean visual art, performance art, really all types of art. Our highest stipend or honorarium that we give each summer is $3,000. So not quite the scale of what James is doing at the city. And also, I mentioned temporary, right? So we're not doing permanent art installations. We actually have sometimes, and we may in the future, but that's not what I'm here to talk about tonight. We're also a private organization. We're a 501c3, and we're closely associated with the Downtown Council, which is a business organization that's supportive of the future of downtown Kansas City. And our mission is really to support local artists and give folks an opportunity to kind of just test out Art in the Loop a little bit, or maybe test out doing something a little different than what you usually do, and perhaps help build your resume, your portfolio, et cetera. So you can, if you find that you like what you've tasted, then you can experience more things. So I'm going to run through a few quickly. Oh, what's in the name? So when we were formed in 2004, the idea was that we wanted to bring more art into the very center of downtown, or that area within the interstate loop where like all the high-rise buildings are. We've actually expanded. We've really become partners with the KC streetcar. And so now we're no longer bound. Where Art in the Loop is, I don't know, as big as the urban center of Kansas City. Just a few images of some of the different types of where we have musicians. We have Madeline Marks piece, which was a installation on a streetcar shelter. We have the artist here, so if you want more discussion about, we can talk to Madeline specifically. This is a mural that Miranda Peach was installing. So we do artwork on the streetcar line, and then in a small park at Oppenstein Park at 12th and Walnut. I like this one because Jane Gotch is doing a dance performance here in front of a streetcar that we that was wrapped by one of our artists. We actually were the first. No, we the well, no one. We were the first ones to wrap a streetcar, which is interesting. If you look out there now, I mean, there are streetcars wrapped in everything, but it was Art in the Loop that kind of pushed that boundary. Same with like being on board and playing music. We were the first ones, and we did it together with the streetcar. So they found that we were a good partner to try things different with. I wanted for 2 seconds just to say every year we typically have a theme, and it's really not. It's meant to just encourage thought and thinking, and it really helps us later when we talk about things, talk about all the different artwork that's included. This year, our theme is home, which I think we're going to have a lot of fun with. And I'm running through it. I want to show you this so you can, if you find what I'm talking about interesting, you can think about next year, because we're in the process of finalizing all our agreements with the 20 plus artists that we're working with this year. We're doing, oh my gosh, 11 visual artists and 16 performance artists have been selected. The process pretty much starts in January or even late December. We'll announce what's happening next year, open the call for artists, do the information sessions, and then our kickoff event is June 3rd. And there are little cards on the back if you want to pick up our schedule. Then the thing to note might be the closing reception when we'll announce our 2027 theme in October. So that's kind of fun to think about too. I'm just going to run through stuff really quickly, tell you a little bit about what we do, and try to address some of the questions that Brandon brought up. But we, this past year, we had these 6 different categories for visual artists. So there's a streetcar wrap. We do street artwork within the frame, which is what you see here. So this is the opportunity for a visual artist, no matter what type of artist you are. You can photograph your work, you could create digital work, and then we will recreate it in vinyl and apply it to a streetcar stop. This with the mural, which was kind of a little bit inspired by what the type of thing Madeline did, where we'll put clear vinyl on a streetcar shelter and then people paint or do other applications. We'll have a new mural in Oppenstein Park and an art installation this year in there as well. On the performance arts side, we do live music, theater, dance, improvisation, spoken word, social practice. My new acquaintances here in the corner, we were talking about digital art. We'd love to figure out a better way to do digital art and a way to do like film or animation. We've stuck our toes in the waters a few times. So one thing I want to stress, if you have thoughts and ideas about what we're doing or how we're doing it or what we could do, please tell me. We love new ideas. We really do. So just a little bit more about, so we're pretty much equally performance art and visual art. The performance art, the stipend is $750. So just to give you and usually that's kind of performing for maybe 20 to 40 minutes, kind of depending on whether you're doing dance, where you're doing it, or you want to doing a performance on a streetcar, could mean all kinds of things. So, and as you can see, we have a lot of different, on the performance side particularly, we're really interested in free spaces that where you'll have your audience, but you might also have the person who's just stumbling by, right? Or just my brain is dead. I'm sorry, but the person who's not expected to see a performance and that yet becomes involved and enjoys it. So that's why we also partner with the Kansas City, Missouri Public Library, Central Library, because even though that's an indoor space, you get that kind of action of people that are going in to check out their books, but they're going to stop and hang out and check out the performances. The City Market and the Art Ride is where we perform on the streetcar. This year, we're doing it a little later because we could not put music on a streetcar when World Cup was here. We're just like, no, I don't think there's going to be room for instruments. So there's just a few images. of some of the different things we've done through the years. Really, I mean, here you're seeing puppets. There's just really any kind of thing we do. So a couple of things I wanted to say, if you're finding this interesting, and on some of the questions that were brought up from ArtsKC, what I would suggest is, attend an information session. This past year we had 6 of them, and it's a great opportunity to ask questions and get your questions answered. So that would be one thing. The other thing, I'm not going to read through these, that following the application guidelines, I think is a really straightforward thing. We do every year. People will get cut because they didn't, complete something properly. But we do try to make it as simple as possible. It is for local artists. I wanted to just run through a few things. So this was the first streetcar that was wrapped in 2018. Party Car by Amy Kligman. This was her proposal, was a photograph of her, of an installation that she did, which we then took and put on the streetcar. But I want to show you a few of these. Now here's this last year, and it's currently up now, Interplanetary Joyride by Max Zlabik. This is what they proposed. So this is what that was, the selection panel reviewed. Now that just is where we've evolved. We put a template out there, and the artist can apply their artwork to the template, which really helps our selection panel, which includes both artists, arts administrators, and community members. So that's kind of a diverse panel. And you can see, of course, with the streetcar, you're often doing a lot of modifications. This is last year, or 2025 mural, Kansas City Grows Up by Taylor Fort. And again, I just try to show you, here's what the proposal was and how it kind of evolves. David Wayne Reed, Mother. This was a still from a video film. See, got film in there. Maybe not digital, but we can figure it out. We did it still and reproduced it here on the shelter. This was not she also did a mural. So, but here she just gave this image. So we also provide a template with this shelter so that the selection panel can understand what your artwork would look like on a shelter. Kind of helping that. It's like, how do you communicating your art to these other people? And like, here's an example. So I just wanted to show you, like, Dave Lowenstein, You Are Here. So this is actually what he submitted. And in his case, it's being very similar to what was the final piece. So I wanted to show you those things. The other thing I just wanted to say is we really do try, we have a team of people. We have a performance art director, an art director, a person doing documentation and social media. So we really try to be very supportive and also very promote the work that you do a lot, and we create a catalog, trying to do things that help boost your career, your work, and always taking new ideas. So just wanted to let you know, give you an idea. This past year for the visual art, we had 80 proposals. Well, 80 individuals applied for different things, which ended up being 138 things to review. We had 52 applications for performance. Yes, Tiffany, we'll talk later about a better way to do that. But you can see it can be pretty competitive. And this is actually who this year's selected artists, which I think we announced it last week, and we do. So I wanted to let you kind of see that. And then how to apply, stay in touch. We put everything on our website, artintheloop.com. That's where the applications are. We don't use Cafe. I feel like every time I look at it, it's too expensive for me. But maybe I'll look at it again, James. So we have a form that we've created on our own site. It's pretty simple, though. I think you can ask Madeline if she agrees. So if you want to learn more, here's the team and how you can connect with us. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for coming, everyone. Let's see here. My name is Tiffany Thompson. I founded a company called Petrichor Projects here in Kansas City. We're based here and in Mexico. And I really got my start working independently with artists with a passion that I had a passion to help them advance their business objectives. And so this is how this company ultimately got sprouted, was working independently with these artists and helping them advance their work. And so what I want to do here is really kind of pull back the curtain. I've never actually shown artists what we do, are the types of presentations that we work with, the companies that we work with. And I guess I should probably step back a little bit and tell you a little bit more about what Petrichor Projects does. And what we do is we work with artists to develop large-scale commissions. We work with large-scale infrastructure projects. We work with strategy and program, and we work globally, and we work at scale. So examples of this would be Ventura Water Pure is a project that we worked on with Contemporary Arts Museum Houston. And it was a water treatment facility. And this was also a 1% for Art program. We work with a lot of different types of programming. So some of it's 1%, some of it's independent private development funds. And we work with governments on how to commission works, how to reach out to artists in different ways. And so it's not always just a 1% type of program, but these are the kinds of programs that we work. So I want to kind of take you through what we do so you can see how this goes at scale. And so these are renderings of the water treatment facility. And I'm going to go through these quickly because I want to kind of get into the meat of what this is. And so this is what an artist would see during an RFQ. But these are the renders of the project. And so we're looking at public art and cultural programming and the framework and the delivery of that. And so this is what we work with the client on. And so we tell them, here's what we can bring, and this is what we need from you. So we'll work with them and we'll issue an artist RFQ. So in this case, we worked with CodaWorks. So CodaWorks is similar to a cafe, but CodaWorks is just for public art. And so we'll get into CodaWorks in a moment at the end of the presentation, but that's something that you should be aware of is CodaWorks. And so we will work with them in developing how this RFQ might go and how we will structure it. We'll manage the selection artists. We'll get approval from the city, and then we will also advise and we'll develop the contracts. There's multiple contracting stages that happen. The city actually does execute the contract in this situation, not always. Sometimes we do it on their behalf. And then we work with the city and we develop the project from the beginning to the end. So we work with the artists and the city so that they can have that work commissioned and delivered. And so this is just wanting to show you what you'll never probably ever see. But I want you to understand, so this is how we work through these kinds of programs. So the artwork is developed through the commissioning, artist commissioning and integrated design processes, which we lead. We're the curatorial consultant. We'll work with them and we'll support the project vision and the goals. And then we will, curate. We will work with the city to curate this. And there'll be a curatorial review panel that we will pull together. And in this situation, we worked with museum professionals on that. You'll see all kinds of different types of panels in different cities and different programs and how those are developed. And they're different. Like in Kansas City, we work with the Municipal Arts Commission. It depends, it just kind of depends. So you should know that there's different types of panels that are working to review your work. And then there'll be an artist contract, and then there'll be an implementation stage that you'll get to develop your work. And so this is the criteria that you'll see when you go to CodaWorks and you're being asked, oh, what do I need to think about? And so this is what you're going to see. This is forward facing. And so you're going to see, you need to have some experience in public art. in this particular project, these are projects at scale. So there are amazing opportunities here with Anne to really kind of get your career going. But these are projects that are $1 million projects. These take different types of skills. And my goal, I'm deeply passionate about getting you from emerging artists to this stage. But how do you get there? It's really hard. And I want to be here to kind of answer those questions and show you how you can do that. So again, we want to see you working at scale. Well, if you've never worked at scale, how are you going to get there? I'll show you that. Experience managing complex projects. You need to have that kind of experience. You need to be able to demonstrate your ability to collaborate with architects, engineers, cities. These are big team projects, and so you need to be able to integrate into the landscape of the project with the architects. This is not just a standalone work. These are integrated. You get integrated into design teams. You're working with large-scale teams over many, many months, sometimes years. And then you need to, in this case, you needed to show an interest in the transformation of water. So in this RFQ, we had 114 artist submissions. These were all the places that they applied from. This was just a national search. And I should say that my goal for Kansas City artists is that you're able to compete with national and international artists. I don't want to see Kansas City artists just being put into you're in the local artists. And then here are our national artists or international artists. I want our artists here in Kansas City to be able to compete against all of the artists around the world. So here I want to show you who are the artists that got shortlisted. And I want to show you what the work was that they submitted. So you can see here, so this is an artist team, Lachlan Turzan, Lily Clark, and Kevin Izzard. And I wanted to show you this work in particular. This is a work that was not really done by all three of them at all. This is a work that Lachlan Turzan worked on. And so when you're submitting to these kinds of RFQs, you can, as long as you explain your participation in a project, it doesn't have to be your completed project. This is a project done by Wet Design, but Lachlan Turzan worked on it. So this immediately grabs the panel's our attention to go, oh, this guy knows how to work at scale. He knows how to work with teams. So here is another project that Lachlan worked on. This was a temporary project in Dubai. It looks massive in scale, and you might think, oh, I could never do this. But you can, because you can go and work on those projects with other people. And so, but then he can put that in his portfolio and capture the panelists' attention. And I think that's what I'm trying to communicate to you right now. Now, this is his personal work, and so much smaller at scale. And if you can see right here, this is the actual work here that reflects onto the ceiling, but it's a much smaller work, something that's much more manageable that you might be able to produce in your own studio. Again, this is his work. This is also a very simple work, obviously showing he is interested in water, and this is sound in water, and it's really a quite simple project where he puts a speaker underneath a piece of metal, and when he turns up the speaker, the water starts to create these amazing waves, and then you turn off the sound and it goes flat. But small scale, but he's able to show us all the things that we're looking for from the panel. Now, this is the next, I'll kind of try to go through this quickly. Michael Singer Studio, he works fully in water, and he works at scale. So again, when we're looking at $1+ million projects, we're looking at artists that can work at scale. Let's quickly go through so you can see a number of his projects. He works all over the world. Seitu Jones works with communities. And this is a long table. It's a community meal. And so what we love about this is that one of the goals that we're trying to do with this project is get people interested in learning about recycled water. And so this is obviously somebody who knows how to pull people together, how to capture attention, how to get people interested in learning. And when this particular project with the water treatment facility, we want people to learn about recycled water so that they'll be willing to drink it. So you can see that Seitu also, he works at smaller scale, but he's also showing us that he understands working with the government. He works obviously, and these are great, and continues, he also has an interest in working with people and water. Michael Jones McKeon, similarly, he was from Lawrence, Kansas, now is a professor out on the East Coast, but he creates man-made rainbows. These are phenomenal, and these get people interested in drinking recycled water, which is, I just did a lecture last week. It's recycled toilet water. Who wants to drink that? Well, people will drink from the rainbow. And if the rainbow is recycled tap or toilet water, it's amazing how art can change our perceptions and change our behaviors. And those are the kinds of things that we're working on at scale. So this shows in his submission that what we should expect to receive. He obviously understands technical drawings. He understands these are solar studies that we're working on and how the water will land on top of buildings. So we understand that he understands how to work in the type of way that these projects need to get realized. And then this is what's happening underneath the ground with that rainbow that you see there. So here is Rainier Novo, and I want to talk to you about his work. Now he shows some work at scale, so that's great. But he did something I would not suggest that you do, is he created the proposal and he worked for free. Don't work for free. When you are responding to an RFQ, show your work. Don't give more in terms of don't do the project. We're going to pay you to do this. So be respectful of your time and your thoughts, and don't give too much. These are highly, highly competitive projects. And so, but this is what he still got shortlisted, which was amazing. But he did a number of renders and ideas of how he would create this work. And so he got shortlisted, but I would not advise you doing that. Maria Artemis, lovely lady. She works at scale again and works with parks and develops large landscapes and hardscapes. And one of the other things I want to show you is how important it is to have people in your images. So don't just show the work itself, but if you have an opportunity to show people engaging in your work, if you have work to show. So people respond and panels respond differently if they can see people actually engaging in the work. So she did a great job with this. Leslie Shows. Again, just interesting work. These are the artists that got shortlisted for this. So all of these artists, Laura Haddad, Tom Drugan, again, theirs is very academic in nature, but still quite interesting work. And we understand that they work at scale. They work with bringing people together. And then Inigo's work here, he obviously, he's a well-known artist working, excuse me, working at scale. I need some of my water. And you can see that he also has a passion for water, or for water projects. Benjamin Ball. And here he's just showing renders. It's okay to submit renders. Not all renders. I mean, don't just submit renders, but it's okay to submit renders. I'll talk a little bit more about that. This is some of the work. Again, showing people engaging in the work, really important. So this is something you won't see, and I want to share it with you. This is the criteria for ranking. So when we get together, either personally or online, depending on how the panels are set up, they're going to review your work. Panelists are going to review your work mostly online. So think about that. And a lot of times independently. Sometimes they come together and start talking about the work. So here are the criteria for ranking that work. And so again, did the artist follow those 5 or 6 different criteria that I mentioned at the beginning? These are those shortlisted artists. And then this is what's given to the panelists, and they have to rank them from 1 to 5, and then ultimately the one who gets, I don't know, the 1 or the 5 ultimately gets the work. So that's how that gets ranked, and that's how you get ultimately that commission. And actually, the people who won this particular commission was the very first one I showed you, which is Lachlan Turzin. And so really exciting artist and artist team to be working with. So common pitfalls that I see artists make. If it's a public art project, and if it's not a mural, don't submit paintings or drawings. That's not communicating to what the work is. So it's not gonna help you communicate what you're able to do or what this project is. And also thinking about what if you're an emerging artist or you don't have very much in your portfolio, what can you do? So I just did this a screen grab from Google Earth or Google Maps. And this is at, let's see, one block. This is on 18th Street this is a free wall over by the Bauer Building. And if you're not familiar with it, just walk around the Bauer Building and you'll see on 18th Street, like around between 18th and Wyandotte, you'll see this free wall. And a free wall, if you're not familiar, you can create a mural. It's free. I mean, you don't have to ask. You bring your spray paint and you create your mural. You take a picture or you have it professionally photographed. And then you've got your first public artwork in your portfolio. So this is a really great way to start building your portfolio if you don't have one yet. This is a render. This is not real. So now this is built as a maquette. So so that's another thing you can do. So if you can't build, most of us can't afford to build a really large artwork. So what do? So and you're trying to break in, create a maquette, and then superimpose it into a landscape, and then you can use that in your. You need to state that this is a maquette and a render. But we understand that you understand how to create that maquette, number one, and then also how to place it. And you can't have your full portfolio like this, but this actually got an artist this commission in Qatar. So he'd never done a public artwork ever, never worked in stone. But he sold the idea. He's selling the vision. And so that's what you're trying to communicate. You're trying to communicate, I know how to handle a large scale project. I can work on a team. I have beautiful visions. So these are the kinds of things that you can do to add things to your portfolio. CodaWorks and Coda Summit. So CodaWorks, as I mentioned, is a public art organization. And so you can become a member. You can very similar to a cafe. You can upload your portfolio. You can look for opportunities. And so there's CodaWorks, that's online. Coda Summit, they have once a year, and that's a conference. It goes around to different cities in the United States. You can go and you can learn and meet lots of people working in public art. And then they've put out a book about the power of public art. The more you learn about public art and who's making it, how it's getting made, how it also talks about budgets and all those kinds of things that you have to be thoughtful of when you're making public art. There's a lot of information in that book. And then work or intern or work on large projects. So if you have the ability to move outside of Kansas City and there's an artist that you absolutely are dying to work for because you love their public art, go work for them. If there's somebody in Kansas City that's doing that, go work for them. And use those as part of your portfolio. Name what it is so that it's very clear, but be able to use that to get to get inspiration, to learn how these projects work. And then the artists who get selected are really the ones who make it easy to say yes. So we're looking for artists that can, as I said, who can do this at scale, they need to know how to budget these works. They need to know how to deliver them. They need to be able to work with architects and work with engineers and all those things that we just talked about. So those are the ones who get shortlisted. And I know it's hard to break in, but those hopefully are a few ideas that will help you be able to take your next step.
Okay, last but not least, certainly, Mr. Phil Shafer, working at Sike Style Industries, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. There you go. Yep, you got it. Okay. Take it away, sir.
How y'all doing? You still with us? Thank you. Hey, I really appreciate y'all coming to this in person. It's so easy just to hop online, but peace to everybody in the chat, but thank you for showing up in person. So my name is Philip Shafer, aka Sike Style. Sike Style Industries is my company. My company is a 2-person squad, myself and my lady, Holly Hayden. If she's in the airplane on the chat, flames in the chat, please. But what Holly allows, no? All right, no connection in the Wi-Fi. So I'm a muralist, designer, illustrator. I'm a graduate of Paseo Academy here in Kansas City, also the Kansas City Art Institute. So I have a background in fine art, illustrator, things like that, digital design. And right now I work a lot in the sports world with different teams and big projects, but it didn't always look like a massive project. My first mural was actually this tiny, piece on 39th and Bell, and still there. And it's just me kind of reaching out and saying, hey, can I paint this? Turns out I could paint it, even though the woman who didn't like it, she yelled at me on the phone. And later on in life, she was sentenced to prison for arson. So it's a different story. Yeah, some of y'all know that story. This is a good story because this is me and Ann's first project together. This was an Art in the Loop project from 2014. And I'll tell you a few lessons learned about this. One is you have to know the weight load limit of the sidewalk if you're going to put a lift or cherry picker, however you want to call it, on there. These are very important things that we had to discover and figure out. 2, understanding that permission from what level gets passed down to other levels. So we were talking directly to Copagan, Bill Copagan, right? Or is John Copagan, thank you. And the guy on the Segway cop didn't get the email. So I got harassed wearing high vis, being up in the net, in the basket by somebody who just wasn't on the email trail. So you have to understand, if you're actually physically on the space working, look like you're supposed to be there, and kind of have a phone number or an email or a name to drop immediately so other people will leave you alone. So this is an example of me doing very personal work. A lot of my work is commercially driven. I work 99% with different businesses. I do apply for 1% every now and then, but most of my work is literally working on projects that I'm just hired for. People call me up, we work together, and I function kind of as a muralist that is a small graphic design agency. So this is work that I did for the middle of the Map Fest. This is very early on in my career. This is 14, 15, 16, 17. Now this is the tin roof mural. So I got the chance to paint over this thing over time. But my approach to my artwork very much stems from my graphic design background. So I look at walls like this as a piece of graphic design that I'm going to be able to share. So because I work digitally, I'm able to share different projects and very much capture the scale. Something I want to add about how you're submitting things is your letter of interest. And my letter of interest always includes something that includes transforming spaces, reinforcing a brand, and creating an experience. And those three things are what I always lead with when I talk about what I'm planning on doing and how I'm going to do. So what you're seeing right here is the three phases of Patio 3000, which is Ruby Jean's Juicery, as a blank wall that they were trying to activate with some seating and a stage. You throw in the color, and that's cool and fun, but it really doesn't become a thing until you have people in the space. And so just like Tiffany was saying, here is that example of people in the space. This whole presentation is going to also be a testament to documentation. It is absolutely paramount to partner with photographers, videographers, friends who fly drones, people who can zoom in from telescopic lenses, whatever you need, having that documentation. Let me dive into the 1%. Is anyone familiar with this website and my mural here? Has anyone seen it before? So this is the website that you go to for the Kansas City 1%. And I'm going to talk to you about how I got started with this one. So back in 2017, I applied, entered my RFQ with the different projects, and I was selected. What I got sent was this from Populous. Populous was the architect on the job, and this is a rendering of what the building looks like. They often call these elevations. Sometimes the elevations will actually have proportions of the wall and the scale. So right now it doesn't have any scale on it. It probably came in an email. So this is what I had to go on of what the project was going to look like. The building wasn't quite finished being built by the time I started working on it. So here are some of the layers to this onion that I was working with. So it's a KCMO 1%, so I'm dealing with their office. There's also Parks and Rec, who had co-ownership of this building. The public art administrator at the time was Elizabeth Bowman. The city architect was Eric Bosch. The building architect was Populous. J.E. Dunn was the contractor on site, and the community stakeholders for this project were the Black Archives, Negro Leagues Museum, Kansas City Royals, Rose Foundation, Major League Baseball, and other player stakeholders. Now, that's a lot to deal with. And I was getting calls from... getting calls from the Royals general manager, Dayton Moore, asking for input and requests. And Elizabeth Bowman said, you don't have to capitulate to requests from the Royals. They're not commissioning this piece. We are. I didn't listen to Elizabeth. I kind of changed the mural, and I've been working with the Royals ever since. So you all as designers and illustrators have to take that chance, whether you say, do I want to care what Dayton Moore says on the phone at 7 a.m. and make a change that you think is, or are you just going to stick to your guns and do your art? Because it is totally fair to just do what you do. I function more in that commercial space, so I'm used to having people make edits to stuff, and I can understand why. And I was like, okay, I'll change these players and move this around. To me, the changes were menial, and it made myself an ally later on with the general manager of the Royals. And he's no longer there, but I still work for the team. What I want to show you here is us on site painting the piece. The piece it was built in the back of the building. That means I had zero sunlight. I was on the north side, so no direct sun. Painting this in the shade in the fall. I'm on site with high vis. I'm on a construction site, so I need hard hat, I need boots. Hard hats are sometimes available or not available, but I had to purchase all my own equipment for this. So that's one thing. If you're going to be on a construction site and you're working on a mural project, or anything like this, you have to go to safety training. That means a 7 a.m. meeting where you sit and watch a boring movie about stuff. And then you and your team has to kind of be all on the same page when you arrive in there. So there's me, Grandma, and Miss Ethel on the site. I snuck them in without helmets. And there I am with Congressman Cleaver. He is definitely standing on the ladder for height. You see that. But these are fun things that are a part of this project that you get to kind of interact with different people. This one was a lot meaningful because of the location in 18th and Vine. So here's the mural being deconstructed from the wall that was built behind the building and then reassembled on the building itself. Now, the weight load limits did not allow for them to put a super sturdy concrete wall that I can just paint on. Because that's why I was like, why can't I just paint on the wall? So this was something that we all kind of agreed of and brainstormed together. How do we paint this thing on something lightweight? So we're using large pieces of dye bond that I'm painting on, hand painting, and then we're having those installed in space. And those are basically drilled into wood paneling behind that Tyvek screen, just with a dozen screws in each thing. The mistake I made was not having it UV coated myself. I let that in the scope of J.E. Dunn. They don't know what to do with that. It should have been in my own scope, and I should have done it myself, and figured out, but it was my bad for not researching that part and trusting that they gave a shit enough to do that anyway. They got a lot to do on their own. They weren't going to like go an extra mile to make sure my artwork looked good. That's the thing you have to understand. It's just like you go the extra mile to make sure you look good. What I didn't expect is they were going to install lighting. So that was amazing. And this looks really beautiful at night. But like all things, tragedy can happen. And tragedies also are sometimes blessings. So this is a little unknown secret that the wall was damaged during 4th of July last year. The bushes in the front caught on fire and burnt the piece up. Now, this piece was faded, popping off the wall. It needed replaced. And so several years ago, the city called and asked us to give a valuation of the mural. And that valuation of the mural allowed us to go through the city and the insurance policy and get a budget to have it replaced. So because I'm a digital artist and I've created this whole thing vectored in Illustrator, I was able to give all of these panels a refresh. And here you see the team at Midtown Signs reinstalling the panels that are 3 times as big now. So there's less panels, and these are all digitally printed with UV coated inks, and they're gonna be there for quite some time. But who's ever navigated insurance? Who's ever navigated trying to get like paid from the city and do other things? These are very tricky things to do. And if it wasn't for this first job in 2017, I wouldn't have established all of those things. I became an LLC. I started working on my own insurance. So I carry 1 million incidental, 2 million aggregate. That's for me to be on site to work. That is standard. And I have that. I am also lift certified. I'm certified to operate a lift up to 80 feet in the air. And the rest of my team is as well. So wherever we go, the 3 guys that I work with and Holly, we're all certified to be on site. So that gives me an advantage when I apply for these things, that I've spent the money to become the expert on these things. And I put in the work to do it too. So here's a final look. And this is a drone shot. So get a friend with a drone, and shows the city in the background. And that's the new thing. So it's all bright and shiny and new now. And it's very cool to see. So this is a picture of my second 1%, which was from 2025. And it is part of the 1% that was put out because the restrooms were getting refurbished. And this is the escalators on, I'm not sure which side of the building. So here I am taking an approach to say, okay, I already work with a digital install team that does a lot of my murals. What if I broke this down into a very simple, just like black and white, silver and clear kind of installation where the story is about, Kansas City. You see there's a reference to even the first 1% there with the Bulls on Parade. And it's a really simple design, but it carries a lot of message. And so this is an example of taking on a job that, has a pretty decent budget, but you're simplifying it so you don't have to overdo it and you get to keep more of your budget. So I had to pay my installation team, but I also wasn't paying like 15 other people, and I wasn't partnering with another group. If I was taking on jobs like massive sculptures installation, I would have to partner with DI or maybe Zahner. And Zahner and DI are great at what they do, but they will take a lot of your budget. And so if you could figure out how to make sculptures and do things on level that you need until you get to that point where you need a bigger company to do that. But if you start off trying to partner with a group like, another construction crew, understand that they're going to take 90% of that. And your artist fee really is 10 to 15% anyway. And what these budgets for projects like this are supposed to cover is to cover all your expenses. So if you look at a $20,000 job, you're not going to walk away with $15,000. And that's something for every artist who's looking at this as a get-rich-quick scheme, to put that out of your mind. And so out of I've been professionally doing murals for 2013. I've only applied to 3 1% and I've only gotten 2. That's a really crazy ratio. But I've only applied to the ones where I was damn near a shoo-in or I was a very good qualified candidate. The rest of my work is pretty much with, direct contact and other things like this. I don't rely on municipal work for my business. I rely on client relations and other conversations through my design biz. But navigating the 1% can be intimidating. But if you find yourself in a position where you say, oh gosh, this is the perfect spot for me, stay tuned and really check out the website and know what they're doing. Go to the Municipal Art Commission meetings and listen to see how these conversation goes. Because there are projects that'll pop up from time to time that'll be great fits. And I do encourage you all to apply for the ones that are a great fit. So with that being said, there's the Sike Style QR code if you want to follow me around. But now it's time for Q&A. Mm-hmm.
Yep, I got one thing. Bill reminded me, we actually have an active project right now. That's a smaller project. It's a $9 million mural project. The 20th Weird Community Center on the west side. The deadline is May 11th, so it's a week from Monday.
I'm not applying for it. So. We don't have to battle that out.
Yeah.
But if you want to know more about that, go to kcmo.gov/arts, and you'll see it, a link there for it.
Okay. I'm gonna navigate. Got a couple of questions here. I also remember there were some questions submitted online beforehand. Any other questions from anyone around the room? You can also ask here live. So anyone online, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And I'm gonna go try to get through as many of these. We've got 10 minutes. I'll try to get through as many of these as possible. So anyone who wants to answer, feel free to pop up. One of the reasons I really wanted Anne to be a part of this is that she is one of the clearest examples I can think of public art, public performance art. It's, I think when we think of public art, we instantly think of murals or big statues or installations across the region, and that's some clear examples of where performers are, a big part of the public art output. So anyway, just wanted to call that out as well. So I appreciate that. We talk a lot about how proposals are reviewed. It's a question that came up a lot. Any advice to artists or anyone who's worked in the sector about an artist working with a fabricator, how to find fabricators that might be able to take an idea and put into practice? Any ideas, any thoughts?
Yeah, I can answer that really quickly. Here in town, depending on what it is that you're interested in fabricating, we have a number of different fabrication facilities. We're working with KC Structural Steel on our steel project. There's DEI. There's all kinds of different fabrication facilities. Also in CodaWorks, you can find all kinds of fabrication facilities all over the world. So that's another great resource to find what you're looking for. You can't find it here.
It would be a great way to partner. If you can find a fabricator willing to partner with you, if you've got a pretty compelling idea. There are companies like Zahner. There's a smaller company called Machine Head, right in the crossroads. So there's a lot of fabricators out there. Some of them will take up a pretty big chunk of your budget, but it can really be a step in the right direction in terms of putting you ahead of others if you have somebody that has a lot of experience already doing public art. And Tiffany's suggestion about CodaWorks is a great one. They have a whole list of fabricators there.
Yeah, it could be good to contact a fabricator close to the place where you're submitting. So if you're submitting on the East Coast, don't find a fabricator in Hawaii. Find them on the East Coast. That'll help you out.
Is it KC Artworks? Am I thinking that right? It's the Kansas City Art Institute graduate who started a steel company here in town. They do smaller works. Some artists create smaller works with them. A sheer.
Oh, Sheer Outcome? Yeah. I'm not sure what the name of his company is.
Yeah. But yeah, he works with artists all the time.
ArtWorksKC.com.
Okay. Yeah, so KC Artworks.
Here's one for anyone, but for any of you, but how are stipends calculated? How have you in the past determined calculations for stipends for artists?
So if you mean a stipend for the semifinalists, so
Leave that to you to.
Yeah, so in the initial application, we don't charge anything for people to apply. There's no fee to apply. When it gets to the semifinalist stage and we've narrowed down the field, we do pay artists to develop a proposal so that they're not working for free. Kansas City, we had used 1.5% of the total budget to determine what that stipend amount is. So I don't know if I answered the question.
No, it varies too. Any kind of rules of thumb as far as you've seen?
You know, it depends on the project. They go anywhere from $500 to $10,000. So
Yeah. And anything? You all have a pretty set.
We have a
Information.
set, yeah, we amount, it's depending on the type of.
And Phil, you touched on this next question too, but as far as I've seen too, mostly from the city, artist supplies are typically calculated as part of the budget. But anyone else have experience where that is not always the case? What do you see more of where, you know, artist stipends might come out of their total commission? How often do you see one versus the other? Anyone?
Yeah, supplies coming out of your own budget is pretty standard. If there's a client that wants to go buy your supplies for you, don't do it. You get a better rate and you know what you need rather than someone else supplying you products that you're not familiar with. So that's just speaking generally on a client to artist basis.
What we have learned with Art in the Loop, because we're helping you reproduce your artwork on vinyl, we have a printing partner that we work with. So we give you your check for your work and then we pay the printer. So, you know, we learned over time that's the easiest way. And then we have a few meetings together so that the signage team and those designers really understand what you're trying to do and get the best results. Just again, it's a little different.
I'm thinking, like, I guess for Barney House Plaza, like the materials for the production of the piece didn't come out of their budget, did it? What we paid the artists?
well, so the way that the budgets work generally in these large scale works is that you've got a overall budget. And the work has to get developed within that budget.
Yeah.
But the artist's fee is typically 10% of that budget.
Okay, so this one word here. What about public interim spaces like the library? Yeah. Internal spaces. Okay, public internal spaces like the library. Well, the airport might be another good example of that.
Yeah.
Most of the artwork is internal to the space.
Yeah.
Is there any difference between external or internal spaces?
Well, external work is a lot harder to take care of.
Mhm.
You know, it's out in the elements. We had another project at the pet project, the Kansas City Campus for Animal Care, the animal shelter at Swope Park. It's got 10 paintings. That was Mike Savage, local artist, did that.
Yeah.
$30,000. So it's basically $3,000 a painting.
Kind of like Phil, you were talking about who was not Jay Dunn, Petrichor, the manufacturer. They weren't taking into consideration the UV protection of the piece, right? Same thing, like most companies that are buying are not taking into consideration graffiti protection, you know. So think about things like that of external spaces versus internal spaces.
Absolutely. And I put that to me as being, this was my lack of experience not to have that ready for that piece. Now I kind of explain to clients what that additional cost would be that would be wrapped up in my bid and how I would handle either the application. So earlier in my presentation, you saw the Buckingham Bridge, you know, which part of that funding did come out of the big budget. And that was a line item that I made sure that said we need to use codes. That was a sweaty process. But it was doing.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think you're familiar with, this is important when you're submitting work. One of the other things that we consider from a panelist position is how is this work going to be cared for and how long, what's the longevity of this? So when it comes to Barney Alice Plaza, we had an artist submit incredible work and he was shortlisted, but we knew there was no way that the city was going to be able to care for it. We know that the city doesn't have a budget for caring for artwork. And even though the work could have been magnificent, there was no way that they were going to be able to do the ongoing care. So not only do we think about that, but we also think about what it would cost to maintain it long term. So whether or not, and when you do these large scale works, you have to also submit to the owner of the work how and when and kind of a manual of how you're going to care for that work. So those are things you'll have to consider as we do.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
When you look at percentage of projects, would you say the majority of them are outdoor projects?
For the program that I manage, yes.
And what happens to the vinyl murals when the season's over?
Well, the process of removing them is not simple. They're not beautiful or not. It doesn't result in something, right?
Yeah, leave only footsteps,
Yeah.
take only
They're-
memories. Phil, what's a deal breaker for you when considering a contract?
A contract, work for hire. One, it's working out for hire. I don't work for any of the people that I work for. I work for myself. Two is, okay, so just say I'm applying to something. What I look for is timeline, budget, and scope, which means like how big is this thing, how crazy is it going to be for paint, and how fast do you have to do it. Those are things that I put together and say, is this going to fit into my world of being able to pull this off? And is it a good fit? The third or the fourth thing is like an intangible. Like, is this good for what I would do? Is this good for the brand? Is this going to look great in my portfolio? And will this be something that pushes my style or, you know, kind of my wish list paintings to go? So those things can sometimes outweigh the timeline. Like, oh, I would love to do this. I'm going to make it happen in the timeline. It's crazy just because I feel like this neighborhood needs a good mural or this project speaks to my heart. So there are times where that gets jumbled around, but definitely the timeline, budget, and scope is what I consider.
Tiffany, I pose that to you a little bit too, as you're working with artists that you know, as well as clients. You know, you've done that relationship for a long time. Have there been any clients or contracts where you've been like, you're never going to find an artist to do that, or I would never ask an artist to do this that you want them to do? Have you ever had to put like the lines in the sand in that way with clients before?
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to recall because I feel like there's something that was very current. But yes, there's sometimes there's clients that aren't necessarily a good fit for the way that we work. Sometimes it just might just be an alignment issue. Sometimes there are things that we would never ask an artist to do, and so we have to communicate that to a client, like, hey, this is just a lot of times clients come at this with different levels of experience, and so part of our job is, well, we'll just use an example of, we worked on a really large scale project. This is one artwork that we developed, just was recently realized in Saudi Arabia, and it's a big tower. And it was an artist wanted to make kind of a kaleidoscope out of a big power tower. And two things. Number one, this was for the Royal Commission of Riyadh. The Crown Prince loved it and wanted 160 of them, and we had to say no. And I had to give an show him why this was singular, and that was important to create it singularly. And then also, there was another. What else was I going to say about that? I don't remember.
But managing expectations.
Yeah, just really building that and just having to work with an artist in that singular vision, and being able to say to a client, no, we're not going to do a lot of these. And then also, they wanted to hang Burger King sign on. And we had to, you have to understand this was a country who had not ever worked with an artist before. None of their artists at the time we started working with this country they had some internationally recognized artists, but they had only worked outside of the country. So this country was really green, and so they didn't understand why they couldn't put signage on the artwork. And so that was just something that you have to teach.
Kind of like selling ad space, you mean?
Yeah.
For it? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They literally wanted to put a Burger King sign.
I want to touch on another red flag from calls that might go out is the ownership of your sketches and your IP after this project will always remain with you. Now, there are other calls that go out that they own your IP and their work is exhibited in public. That is not how it should be. You should always own your IP and you would never own your sell the sketches you submit. Because when you submit a sketch and it doesn't get approved, you submit that to another client somewhere else. That does not go out to the public and get ruined for you to apply somewhere else.
Okay, 3 more questions really quickly. So AI came up a couple of times from all perspectives, artists through selectors and adjudicators. What is your rule of thumb around usage of AI for applications? I've personally seen it where, sometimes you use it to tweak something. I would put, like, for me, I wouldn't know how to put people in images. So like inserting people into my rendering or photograph or whatever, I wouldn't be so concerned about that. But then I've also seen to where someone submitted completely AI created materials for their application. So we have no idea what the artist actually was planning on doing. I fed these 3 ideas I had for this into AI and here's what you have. So where on the spectrum do you all fall as part of doing that, using AI?
We ask artists to identify. It says right in the call for artists that if you're going to use AI, you need to identify it in your image list. But we don't prohibit the use of AI.
And the kind of as an extension of that, where do you feel, maybe you can speak to this the most, where do you draw the line of how much you're willing to render for free to get the job versus what you're willing to propose beforehand?
Like we stated earlier, the RFQ phase, my past work should be plenty to tell you what I can already do. So unless I'm coming up to a special agreement with somebody, I'll maybe do that if I really love them. But most of the time, there's a kill fee associated with my design. I'll speak to the AI question a little bit, and just know that if you're creating your artist statement in ChatGPT, we can read ChatGPT. Not just me, but the whole panel knows what those sound like because you're basically sounding like homogenized computers. And so if you read enough proposals, you'll know exactly who took the time to actually write it and who's just plugging and playing. Photoshop is not necessarily AI, even though there's AI elements. So adding some people to the foreground and background, you don't need to hand draw them unless that's your thing. So manipulation of images like that to create what this piece is going to look like in the final space is absolutely fine. And yes, there's more AI tools in it, but just one, citing your sources if you're using it. And also, if your portfolio doesn't look like your AI image, you're probably not going to get selected by a good selection panel.
I'll speak to that just
Go
a
ahead.
little
Yep.
bit more. So I had an artist that was selected. So not all artworks that we work on are through panel. This is a curated work, and a couple artists were given several $1,000s to develop artworks proposal. And I was very familiar with all of the artists' work. And one of the artists submitted a proposal that was all AI and was not in their hand and not in their aesthetic. And I personally felt angry. And I had to continue to kind of push the artist, like, this doesn't look like your work. Is this how how is this going to, how is this going to work? I really had to push to get something in the artist's hand. I, as a curator, never want to be in a position to push an artist to actually to pay them thousands of dollars for a proposal, and then have AI put it out and put all the text out. And I felt really disappointed with the artists, and will affect me wanting to curate that work and that artist in the future.
Anyone have any suggestions for those who might be less comfortable in the digital space, making digital renderings for applications? Any suggestions? What?
Phone a friend. we all work with teams. I don't, you know, everyone up here has a team of people working with them. So it is not expected that anyone goes about this solo. There's a friend, there's a family member, there's somebody that you know, a student, intern, that can help you prepare your project. And then proofread what you write. It's essential.
You know, one other thing I'd like to add, and every project is going to be different, and so some panels or some projects, they don't want you to have to, as an artist, to ask questions or have access to whether it's me or anybody else that's working on the project. My take on it is that I am interested in creating the best project possible. I want every artist to have the best hand up as possible. You can ask for way, and I'm going to be a vehicle to help support whatever stage of development you are in with your project. So some are different, but.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for sticking around. I'll just leave you with a couple of key points as far as I've heard over the years too. Criteria is always going to be totally different. Scoring is going to be totally different for each project. In fact, some of the projects I've helped select on didn't even have scoring. It was, we got finalists presented to us. We talked about what, you know, our who our tops were, and the person I thought we were going to select went like this all day long until we talked through all of the different you know, qualifications that were necessary for the specific project, and then we ended up with someone that was totally not on my did not think was going to be mine. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just thought of this. How do you interpret it if the application deadline is extended, or they're like reaching out trying to find other applicants? That doesn't come off. Like, I don't know how to interpret it.
Yeah, I mean,
But somebody I want to work for.
typically I think most of the time, like what I've seen, it's that a diversity of artists didn't really apply. It's like we got all the same kind of artists typically, or all from the same area, or we got none locally, and we either were on a tight deadline, so we selected someone maybe we shouldn't have, or we'd rather have selected someone locally, or can we extend the deadline and opt for more of a runway? It's not always. In fact, I have never personally seen it to where it was we didn't have our shit together and therefore it fell apart. It's like, God, I wish we had more diversity or something else. Anyone else? Yeah, more choices, exactly. Anyone else have thoughts about that?
Yeah, in call for entry, you can't actually extend the deadline. It's kind of a glitch in the software. So
perfect example, Go North. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. It's a new initiative trying to get people to go experience Platte County and Clay County and go north of the river. They just did a big call for designs on this giant 20-foot inflatable soccer ball they're going to have during the World Cup. And that was something they had to extend because they wanted a more diverse.
Because no one understood what they wanted.
Yes.
And that, yeah.
So am I supposed to send you a digital design and you guys do it? Am I supposed to paint this piece of plastic out on the street?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, and
That's
then
how you feel when you look at those. That's why those get extended, because people don't know how to write RFQs.
Yeah. And hopefully this is helping with some of that complication. Application process, I hope that you've seen it's not often as complicated or as in-depth or as voluminous as sometimes we think it is. Oftentimes it's a submit your photos, your portfolio, and when we narrow it down to a certain number, then we'll want to follow up with some renderings and things like that. And then I want to encourage you again, add your artist profile to artskcgo.com. People can search, and we try to post on artskcgo.com opportunities as we see them throughout the community. So we can function as a kind of our own repository there. World Cup, if you want to join the task force, tomorrow is our next meeting. Then we'll have one in May, and then we'll be done for the World Cup experience. Tomorrow at the gallery, 3:30 to 5. And then we hope to have more conversations like this. I hope that this is not our only panel discussion like this. I want to take it to different organizations, maybe Charlotte Street, Matty Roads, et cetera, go across the spectrum out in Overland Park, 18th and Vine, et cetera. This is just kind of the first iteration of this. I want to get some of this information out into the community. So follow us on social, follow Charlotte Street and all the other organizations and everyone listening up here. Hopefully we'll be able to grow and spread the word about the opportunities here in the area and the different information necessary to fulfill that. So thank you again to Phil and James and Tiffany. And best of luck to everyone. Take care. Yeah.
Thank you, Sally.